But it is our last session, and today's topic, our last topic, is on reports. And then we're going to open it up for kind of an open session. So be prepared for that. So I couldn't think of a good opening question to get you all talking about reports because maybe it's using a different side of our brain. We've been talking about the creative side. Now we're going to talk about the analytical side, and that is how do we evaluate these businesses that we run. And I would say when I'm often asked, what do you do? What do retail managers do? I say that we run 5 vibrant micro businesses. And so we're really more business managers than retail managers. So we're looking at profit and we're looking at net income and we're looking at a various number of business metrics in order to evaluate the health and of our business operations, but also to make strategy. So all the things that we're going to talk about are some of the tools that you're going to use as the retail manager to make business-minded decisions, to make strategies that you might put in a strategic plan, how you tweak your ROII, how you improve your profit and your efficiencies in your operations. So these are just some tools. I would also have one like asterisk that I want to start off and say some of our tools are changing. So you're entering into this conversation in midst of a few things happening. One, Square came into our lives and that's changing some things. Some things are fading in their effectiveness. Some things, for example, Square, we haven't used it enough for it to populate with good data to run great reports, but it is the direction that we're going. And then we have to acknowledge that Lawson is the architecture that a lot of our financials are run off of, and it's going to be reaching a transition in the next 2 years. So we're just at an interesting crossroads. So as of today, we're going to talk about 10 reports, 10 things that you can do. So if you're following around along with me on your notes, I want you to actually go down to number 5. I want to start with the dashboard because this is not necessarily a report you run, but it's a place you go to see visualizations. And so let me start by sharing my screen with you. And let's see here. SharpTop, I think I'm going to make you my test example today. So if you log on to your dashboard, you're going to see a home screen that looks just like this. I would actually recommend that you save this and bookmark it. I've got mine bookmarked up here right next to the Young Life webpage. But this landing page starts with first you go right here and you change the camp name so that you're looking at your location. There's a little drop down arrow. You can change time selector and also retail season. So you can be looking at school season or summer. I don't know if I'm on the Zoom if it will actually let me do that. So, but this is your landing page. So I think of this as the dashboard of your cockpit. It's got all kind of visualizations. You can see right here, revenue by fiscal year, camper fee. And I love this metric. Is this, as you're telling the story of why retail is important, being able to say how much your operation contributed back to help reducing the camp fee is a great story. And then net profit. And you can see in that far bottom right graphic, you can see if you scroll over it, the green is the store, and then you hover over it. Again, I'm not sure if it'll let me do that. Oh, there it goes. Black is concessions, red is crafts, yellow is vending. You can see your vending, 9,500. You can also see total net retail profit. So these are great things to look at. Again, another asterisk in this story is we had a real consistent trend, and then not a surprise to any of us, things have changed. So we want to look as we're making decisions, calibrating back to what we would call as more of a norm. I would go back to 2019. So obviously 2020 and what we're seeing at the beginning of 21 is not very helpful in really calibrating what we should be doing. All right, so there's that landing page. Then you can go here to the store. Again, let's see if it will actually take me there. I think it will. The store is going to be looking at dollars per guest. Again, I chose Sharp Top, so MC, um, dollar per guest. You can see that you've really seen a drop, but on average, hitting that 40 to $45 per guest seems like a good place to strategize around. You can also see your net profit by year. So you can see Sharp Top has been extremely profitable, um, with a high point in the last 3 years of 215, and that's net profit, which is great. At the bottom of this page, you can see that there's arrows that take you to another page. And also, before we leave here, you can also, we've talked about that profit margin goals, those national benchmarks, and those are represented right here. But if you hit this arrow, it'll take you to another screen that will walk, let's see, there it goes. It goes to a national view. And one thing I just point out to you is each of you should have another camp that you look at as a comparison. Now, oftentimes comparison is not good, but I like to take another camp to see, are they have similar size? Are they a level 3 camp? Do they have similar school season business? The mix of high school and junior high. And then sometimes that comparison is really helpful in seeing how far off my location numbers are. So, for example, Frontier might look at Saranac as a seasonal. Like, what is Saranac's seasonal story? Let's see, Lone Hollow with high school, you might, Amy, I don't know if there's a particular camp that you look to, but like a Windy Gap, Carolina Point. Actually, Carolina Point might be better because it's a newer camp.
Kathleen, I'm not on that report.
Oh, well,
When I go to look for camp, my name's not on there.
well, that's a problem. We should fix that. Let me add that as an action item, Amy, because you'd want to see this. But what camp do you look at? Like Carolina Point would be an example.
I think I do. Sometimes I look to Crooked Creek because we have same guest groups, but I realize because so many Texans love Colorado, and so I kind of look at them as a resource. But I have started looking more in like a Carolina Point for more like wildlife and group dynamics and stuff. Yeah, or Southwind. It's helped me a lot with wildlife.
Right. Angela, like with Clearwater Cove, you can be looking at Southwind sometimes as a good comparison. Again, everyone should kind of have a point of comparison. Not everything is same. There's stories behind the numbers. But here you can see nationally, dollar per guest, national store ROII, see the camps. Going back to 2019, the camps that are hitting that 100% benchmark, and those that are struggling to do that. Again, there's stories behind those numbers, but that's helpful. I probably won't go through every single tab, but let me go back to that landing page if it'll let me. And it won't, so let me try this. Oh, there it goes. So we have concessions, we have crafts, we have vending, we have store ROII. Inventory discrepancy, this is one of the metrics we talked about. It's the difference between what Lawson says and what your point of sale says. And then finally, some of the national reports. Let me just drop in here on crafts because there's some similarities between this and concessions. And we've chosen Sharp Top again. So, Sharp Top, as you look at this, it looked like in 2017 and 18 that you could have considered about 9,000, about 9,500 would have been a good average. So your 2019 drop to almost 7,000, that's a great place as you're a new manager to start to figure out why. If this was a normal summer, you could kind of start to set some goals around those numbers. But so look here, you've got $1.18. So if you come up here and you choose another camp, let's say Crooked Creek. So their they're about $2 per guest, $2.20 in 2018. But they also had a similar net profit. So it's good to kind of flip back and forth to some other camps to see how are my numbers in range. All right. Before we leave dashboard, what questions do you have? No questions. Well, I would make a note to go and check this out once a month. There's no action item related to the dashboard. It is truly there to serve you. But I think to have a good business strategy, watching the ebb and flow of the business, using these visualizations is really helpful. So I would be tuning into this at least once a month. All right. So that's the dashboard. Let's go back to number 1 to Concur. And Tammy, do you want to tell us a little bit about, you want to just start us off with those first 4?
Yeah. So Concur, we kind of talked about this a little bit last week in one of the trainings as well, but just how to go in and look for the reports. How do you guys feel about looking for reports from the past or looking, Debbie?
Pro status.
Yeah. So I'm going to try to share my screen here. So give me a moment.
Oh, wait a minute. I might have to do double.
Oh, give me permission.
Yeah, I might have to do that. Give me a second. All right, you should be good.
And watch, it'll be gone again, you know, my luck.
I know. While you're pulling that up, I'll mention to you, some of you will have a limited credit limit. So if you're coming into a big season, and typically in April, you're going to spend $30,000, $40,000. One way to get around that is to ask your camp manager to email P cards and request a temporary increase of your P card spending limit. Another trick is to submit 2 Concur expense reports in a month. It'll cost you $5 to do that, but if, let's say, if you have 20,000 as your spending limit, then in that month you're able to do 2 reports, so you're going to be able to submit for 40. So those are 2 ways that you can navigate credit limits.
Well, so in Concur, once you guys log in, go to expense, and then you can click over here to the right on report library. And it'll pull from the last 90 days automatically. But if you need to look for something, for me, I need to look at last year's because I haven't had anything much this year. So I'll just go to reports for last year and it'll pull up every month that's in there. So then just double click on which ones you need to see. Don't be alarmed because I know you guys are seeing mine and I have all these like that warning there. It's because I code for 2 camps and it thinks I have double charges. So Concur is a ever learning program. So it kind of learns things and will kind of start to fill in some of the boxes for you too, as you start using it. And then the other one to look for, and most of this is all for reconciliation purposes, how that ties into Lawson. So when you're going through, which we'll get to next, your expense reports, you can see and make sure that what's listed from Lawson is actually on a report that you submitted. But as you go in and look for your reconciliations, the 2 places to look, 3. So, but the 2 in Concur, expense and invoice. When I go into invoice, I just come down here to the unsubmitted invoices and change that to all my invoices. And then it'll pull everything and you can start searching for what you might need, but it will list it by date here. Any questions on Concur and finding things? Okay. So then the next is your revenue and expense reports. And I've learned through the years that each bookkeeper sends out different things, but just have the conversation with your bookkeeper on what you're looking for. I know some camps, they just know where to go in and look at for all the reports. My bookkeeper sends it to me, and it's just, this is a pretty small one, but it's a general ledger report. It's the detail trial balance that gets sent to me, and then the department expenses for the store and the concession. So you have your first two camp numbers. So 13 and 03 are the ones that I get. And I can show you those as well.
While you're pulling that up, I would say if you're filling in blanks, the blank there is that these are generated from Lawson. That is the accounting software that our mission uses. And they're showing you your 1-3, which is other retail, and your 0-3 accounts, which are just the store. So those are the two departments that you will get reports on.
Are you guys able to see my department expense report? Okay. So everything I have listed up top here are the forms that I get from my bookkeeper. And here you're able to see, so I'm in the stores department expense. It's showing me what I've spent for my cost of sales for the store and in the crafts, damaged good, postage, and freight. So as you go through, you can look through monthly what you've got going on. You've got your actual and then your budget, and it just keeps going. It also lists out sundries and people and disposables on this as well that you're going to spend in the store. And then if we go over to concessions, it's going to show me the same things that we saw in the first one, but just changing up a few of those where you've got vending now in there. And then as we go into the detailed trial balance, this would be where, and I meant to grab a bigger report where it's showing all the transactions that you're going to take from here. And if you need to reconcile that versus Concur, this is the one that you're going to want to print out, because it'll show the vendor and how much you spent there. And that the 7250 is just going to show your store product. Your postage and freight won't show up on that one because that's going to show up in your department expenses. And then there's the detailed trial balance that is listing out all your expenses that you've spent money on. And this will be some things that you have control over and others that you don't. So like the salaries and your benefits are all factored into this report as well.
So there's two things that when I look at a detailed trial balance that I'm looking for. The most common mistakes, I'm looking for double entries. So I'm looking where the bookkeeper hit that account twice. And I'm also looking for expenses that were supposed to be in another department, and they showed up in mine. And so those are the two things that I'm looking for. And with the detailed trial balance, I don't reconcile this like a checkbook. We did actually used to do that, but the time value is not there, and we are already managing our expenses, reconciling them with our Concur. So think of it this way: Concur is the gateway that gets it into this report. And so you're glancing at your detailed trial balance is the spot check. You're verifying, does that look right? That damage report that I sent to the bookkeeper, is that there? My paper and disposables, it will show budget versus actual on revenue and expense. And so you can see how much do you have left to spend. And if it's June and you've already, -20, you need to find a different solution. So what I look at both of these is to verify accuracy at like a 30,000 foot view. And then I'm making financial decisions, buying decisions based on how this lines up with my budget. Now keep in mind, when you set a budget, you're saying these are my spending goals. This is the structure and the framework that I'm going to stay within. And these monthly reports are helping to show you how close you are to spending close to budget. Even that last one that Tammy showed, it shows percentage of the budget used. So I like to look down there, especially about July and August when I'm getting close to the fiscal year end. How much money do I have left before October 1st comes and I get a new recharge of budget dollars. So I think in the past, both these two reports, the detail trial balance and the R&E, have been intimidating. I think we want to just acknowledge that. So when you look at this, don't kind of let your eyes get glazed over and go, oh, I don't get this. Just, you'll know what you've put into Concur and what should be here. And if you have a question to verify it, Concur is your source of verification. Let's pause there because Tammy, this is often a place we get a lot of questions. So let's see what you have. What doesn't make sense that we can clarify? Oh my gosh, we have a bunch of Lawson pros.
And I would say no question is a wrong question or dumb question, because I know when I started and you start getting all these reports and I'm going, I really don't know what I'm supposed to do with these things.
All right. Have all of you received these, at least one from a bookkeeper so far? Debbie, you have. Angela, you have. Karen, Amy, you've seen them before. MC, how about you? Have you seen these before?
I have. I looked at March a little bit with Lacey. We haven't gotten April's yet, so I'm kind of looking back at March again. So, but I'm definitely probably in more of the boat of like glazed over. So trying to make sure. I think once I get April, I like put everything in April, so I think that will make sense once I look at it.
I would agree with you, because once this report is going to be a representation of your actions. So you put your P card down and this is the representation of that. So they're going to be familiar to you. And MC, I'm going to throw out a challenge here. I know in the past, Lacey took a deep dive and actually reconciled with a very extensive multi-tabbed Excel sheet where she reconciled these. I felt like that was great if you really are in love with numbers, but I think in some ways it was getting too deep in the weeds. So let's just say, as you work with your coach, don't hold on so much to that particular reconciliation. Talk it through with your coach. See if it's something that serves your process and your analysis. There's some room there that I don't think you have to take that deep of a dive. So there's some freedom there. And then Rachel, do you see these financial statements at Castaway, or is this going to Janet?
She sees, I mean, she gets all of them and I've seen them. I'm more just like, what are all these numbers?
What are all these numbers?
Yeah.
Well, I would tell you, when Lawson does get a new landing place, I hope the reports are easier to consume, because they look like they're run off a dot matrix printer to me. They look so old school. So we'll see. All right.
Well, one thing I would say, as you're looking through the reports that I have found, and it's happened, I don't know how, but there's sometimes random people's P cards will end up in my department. And the way to tell that is, I forget what line it's on, and I don't have the best reports to look at right now. It'll give your two initials and the last four of your credit card number. And so if you know that those aren't your initials, ask your bookkeeper about that and get it moved out if it's not supposed to be in your department.
That is a great one, especially if you're doing camp to camp transfers, depending if you're on the receiving or the sending side. Yeah, that's a great one. There's also some other like codes to know if it was a P card or an internal transfer. So that's kind of good to notice. All right, so Concur is the vehicle that gets it into Lawson. R&E, detailed trial balance, are the expression of what is in Lawson. And I would say, before we transition to Square, just know this is where you collaborate with your bookkeeper. So I'm looking around and I think I know all of your bookkeepers, except Rachel, who's yours?
Her name is Sarah.
She's new, right?
Yes.
Yeah.
She's was from the ranch.
Yes.
New
Correct.
to the Midwest.
New to that, yeah. Timberwolf and Castaway, I believe.
Yep.
Mhm.
Yeah. So Tammy made this point, but let me reiterate it. bookkeepers can have their own approach and sometimes have some additional ask of you, but really develop that connection with your bookkeeper and give them a call sometime before summer starts would be my recommendation. Just check in, get to know their style, get to know what they're prioritizing. That'd be helpful. All right, now let's talk about Square reports.
So many reports. Yay. I'm just gonna, who knows where to find your projected profit report, how to get to that? That's really good. It's under reports and go to inventory reports. So it's a drop down that you're going to want to click on, and it's going to be one that we're going to, you want to be into that one. To be honest, there's been times that I've had to sit there and look at it going, it's because it's been a while that I've been in on some of the reports going, wait a second, how do I get back into that one? So play around with Square and type in the search if you need to find something. Square is great for helping out with that. And I know there's lots of training already happening on Square, so don't let it overwhelm you, but just it's very user friendly. So the reports, the main ones that you're going to look at are your projected profit report, which we just talked about on how to get to, which is also how to get to the cost of goods sold. And I mean, I'll share my screen because I'm in Square here. Maybe. Nope.
Do you want me to?
There we go. I got it. So under reports, drop down the inventory reports, and then you can just click on which one you need to see. And so this is also where you're going to see your vendor sales. And I'm kind of a little out of order here, but because it's all under one area, that's why I'm going off key here. So you can just click on them. I pulled up Windy Gap as an example for this past weekend on their sales. So I'm under vendor sales, and you can go in and see which vendors are doing what, and then keep just scrolling down and you can see even more. So it's going to give you your top 5 vendors at the top, which is great to know, but then you can also filter it too. So if you just go into all vendors and you can pick one and see what is selling, if anything. So they sold one American Needle hat.
And I'll just reiterate, these reports are not as populated as our RMS system was that had years and years of data, but Square's going to get there. So by the end of the summer, it's going to become more and more relevant to us. And what she's showing you here, this vendor report on your list is number 3 under sales. And this is one of those analytical reports. Those 3 reports there are where you go when you're trying to make buying decisions. It's where you're trying to inform yourself analytically on what's happening in the store. And then I'll backtrack up to the PPL, the projected profit. I'm sorry, the PPR. I have to get these acronyms right. The PPR number 4. She said that this does inventory value, which is really helpful. This is a monthly report that you perform. So just note that this is one of the actions that you take every month. And do look at your point of sale manual to refresh your memory on the filters that you set. So just know that there's a handful of things that you do. You filter by month, by camp location, and then under categories, you're going to remove everything that is not store related. And we've noted that by putting a period or a dot in front, so you can see .SB. So that puts them at the top of the list. So let's see, you're going to uncheck crafts and snack bar categories. So you're only looking at store categories and shipping. You're taking that off as well. And that's
sorry, go ahead, Kathleen.
I was just saying, then that's how you run your PPR report. And again, put a reminder in Outlook for a while until it's automatic, but that should be run every single month.
And the other thing is, so I grabbed Clearwater's right now, and I have today's date. Well, actually, yesterday. You have to go back a day to get to. So if you're pulling today's report, it's not going to show you the number. So you have to go back a day because it has to update.
Are you guys familiar with the difference? I'll just ask, what's the difference between total inventory value and total retail value?
Is inventory value like the cost of the item, and retail value is like the retail price?
Absolutely. So you take those same mix of products and you're doing the math, multiplying it by the wholesale price to get your inventory value or by the retail price. Your retail price is how much you expect to receive in sales. The inventory value is the cost of sales value. And that's the number. If there was a number to put a spotlight on, if I'm making a buying decision for my location, I want to know what my inventory value is at what time of year. So, Angela, at 50,000, that is a little high if it was school season, but it certainly is low for this time of year of May. But you haven't received very much yet, so that number's bound to change by the end of the week. So
yeah. Any questions on the projected profit yet?
I am just curious. So the profit margin percentage that was listed there, how does that relate to ROII, or does it relate?
it does not relate to ROII, but it has a distant tie. So if you have a healthy profit margin, and we've set the national benchmark that should be 50%. So Clearwater took all the mix of all of their products, and Square is saying it's at 57.9. So that's really good. That is looking at how much your prices are being set, how much you're setting your retail price for. With ROII, you're looking more at cost of goods compared to your inventory levels, compared to your revenue, and how you're spending money. So it's kind of like a distant cousin, but they're not tied together.
Okay.
A healthy profit margin often leads to a healthy ROII, but it doesn't mean it's like eating and working out. They both point toward health.
Got it. Okay, so a good profit margin, we're just aiming for above 50%.
Correct.
See on this. Great.
Correct.
And this is also taking into account items that you've put on sale too. So, it's got ebb and flow in there too.
Which is a great point. You reduce your profit margin when you put something on sale, but you reduce your inventory value, so which pushes up your ROII. So again, these push and pull, these levers that we move in business management of the store, all are connected.
I just had my bookkeeper get a hold of me because I'm trying to push all of our Texas camp because I need to move it out. It's not just, it's going to go in my cell, but I really need to move it out. And I have Buckner, I have all of Buckner stuff. And so when I put the sale price on my Buckner items, my bookkeeper came back and said, you're selling it below cost. But I've been sitting on it for a while, and it almost feels like dead inventory. So that's going to be affecting my profit margin as well. Speak into something like that if you haven't already talked about that.
Well,
did you talk about that already?
We talked about underpricing and how you put things on sale. But let's acknowledge that anything that is financially on your books, on inventory, is like food sitting on a shelf. It can spoil over time. The longer it sits, the more spoiled it becomes. So if you feel like you have tired inventory, the best decision is to put it on sale and get it out of your store inventory. So even though you're choosing to put it on sale, it is a better decision to get it out of your inventory so you can replace that square footage with more profit generating, yes, fresher choices. Okay, so that would be the overarching thing. I am in no way concerned that you're putting something on sale below cost. If you've determined that 20% isn't going to get it out the door, 40% isn't going to get it out the door, but cost or below cost, there is a point where we say price to walk, meaning what price does this product need to have to walk out the door? And I did give an example, Amy, of something that I put at 25 cents because that's what I determined that the market, it wasn't a t-shirt, it was a bracelet, but that was the price to make it walk out the door. And that had value to lightening our inventory value. Does that help?
And I'd say, Amy, you're not the only one that's had to go through that. I mean, Washington Family Ranch, when we changed the name back years ago, we had to get rid of product and it was below cost. And it was just, it couldn't go into the store. So we had to kind of sell it under the table, I guess, is what you could say. But it left. So it happens. And unfortunately, but as Kathleen was saying, price to walk and move it. So, okay. Any other questions before we move on? So so that was number 4, projected profit. We've already talked about 5, the dashboard. And then number 6 are reports done by your bookkeeper. They have access to Square, so they're able to go in and pull the tax reports, the cost of goods report, shipping report, and the damage report.
Yep. So I would just make sure, to be honest, I would just kind of ask, are you doing these reports? Because it may be a while since they have done these because there hasn't been damage. And so they might be out of the habit of it. Keep in mind, we did move over to Square in March of 2020, which there was another world event happening at the same time that might have prevented some of these things sticking in our long-term memory. So it might be worth verifying that they've done those or are doing those.
And
The next, go ahead.
When I've marked stuff out recently, just as a reminder, I just sent it to my bookkeeper saying, hey, there's a damage report in there. Just letting you know.
Yep. The next one, number 7, is the change fund log. And this I sent out in the Monday retail update, but in the summer, you should be reconciling that weekly, and in the school season, once a month. It's pretty easy. You just count your petty cash and with 2 people, and you just verify that if it's 500, there's 500 there. That's all it is. Pretty straightforward. And then number 8, donation jar report. I've mentioned this also in Monday retail update, and I did pass along that Pam at Crooked Creek was doing a Google Share Doc, which I really love that. But what happens is we collect those donation jars from all of our retail areas. We take it to the office. They are doing the count and they're entering it into the FS report. If that's what happened, we would never know what was showing up in those jars. So the way we have this communication is that they're either emailing you the amount and you're recording it in your log, or what I like actually better is a Google sheet that's shared where they're entering in what they put in and then you have visibility to it. So again, this is a place where theft can happen. So, you want to collect these jars with 2 people. You want to take it to the office, let them count it with 2 people, and then the check and balance is the log that records the values. All right.
Kathleen, did you say that process with them counting it, is that just summer or is that all the time?
It is all the time. And honestly, I was surprised that check and balance came from accounting where they wanted the office to do the counting. They do the offering as well. And so they're already counting. And so this was supposed to just be an addition, and they wanted a check and balance in place. So it was accounting that said, let the office do the count and then you be responsible for the recording of the amount.
Okay.
There is a dashboard that shows people's donation jar every month deposit. I haven't pushed that out in a while. I might need to do that at the end of the summer. And just a reminder, it's going to underfunded areas in the summer, and you should have great signage. Like, people should know what they're putting their change in the jar, where it goes to. So there's a sign in Canva, but feel free to make a new one. And then in the school season, you and your camp manager get to decide where those funds go. And I think that can be a really fun conversation if you've never stopped and done that. In about 2 more Monday retail updates, I'm going to remind you to make a deposit and settle up your school season donation jars and transition to summer. So that's coming in about 2 weeks. So, all right, Tammy, you want to highlight the yearly reports?
Yeah. So your yearly reports, back into Square under your inventory reports. Your projected profit, you are pulling that monthly, but you're also looking at that at the end of the year after your inventory. And your cost of goods is factoring into that as well. So again, just all these reports, but the great thing about Square, user friendly, easy to find things. Yeah, and yearly inventory, even though that's not listed on here, it happens.
It happens. I would note that September's a big month in retail. I'm not going to dive in much more than just noting these yearly reports, but when we get to September, that's kind of where we tighten up a lot of loose ends. She's mentioned a few. You're going to run your final PPR report, cost of sales for end of year reconciliation. You're going to check that vending log. You're going to check that donations have been made. All the settle up. We've added crafts this year because if you're selling in the store, you need to move some funds around. So it's kind of a month of settling up. So just worth noting. And then for time's sake, I'm just going to say those 3 reports there are all done in Square, and they're all designed to be analysis. And when you're going into pre-buy season and you need to say, should I be ordering more carabiners? One of these reports would probably help make those decisions easier. All right, well, I have a quiz question for you guys, and then we're going to open it up to kind of our panel session where you can ask us anything. But before we leave reports, I can't help but mention the W Drive. Does everyone have access to the W Drive? Yes. MC, do you? Yes. So Karen doesn't and Amy doesn't. Okay, so unless there's a great reason why, put that as a top action item for both of you. You need W Drive access.
We don't have one yet.
You don't have one?
And we can't get it at Wilderness.
Everything on Dropbox.
So you do what? You save everything on Dropbox? Okay. So there's some IT reasons, but for the majority of us, the W Drive is something that the help desk can help you get access to. And in the W Drive, under a couple like property / your location / this year, etc., it has a series of folders. And this is where we screenshot and save all kinds of reports with our bookkeeper. So I'm just going to read off to you and just make sure you know what these are. So the first one is IT, which stands for, anyone want to guess? Oh, unmute yourself.
Internal
transfers.
Yes, okay. And then TR report.
transaction report.
Transaction report. CR.
Custom report.
Custom report. So those are all those initials that you're saving and putting into the W Drive that every time the store is open, you're doing one of those. Okay, here's a couple others. Damage report. Ship. That is anytime you've incurred an expense. And that is something your bookkeeper does, but that would show up in the W Drive. PPR and the date that's a monthly report that you're saving that screenshot for your bookkeeper in the W Drive. And then the last two are two reports the bookkeeper does in the W Drive, and that is tax and COG, or cost of goods, sometimes called cost of sales. So those are all types of things that you should be seeing in the W Drive, either with a screenshot or an export. I think a snip, a screenshot is the easiest. But again, talk with your bookkeeper about those. All right. So that is a wrap on all types of key essentials that we've pulled out. Please note that there's a lot of topics that we did not cover over these 10 different Zoom calls. Most of it is covered in the manual. Most of it is things that you would reference in a situation, but not manage every day. But what else about this new gig for you in retail that we can answer? And I'm going to say what Tammy would say to you is no question is a bad question. It can be about business management, about staffing, can even be about personal, just how you do something. So we'll just open it up.
Okay, can I ask a pretty practical one? Yesterday we got in our joggers and that we had ordered, and they appear to all have a line across them that it looks like from where the stamp was that did the screen printing on it. It's pretty noticeable. And so when you have items that come in that you're like, ooh, I don't know what I do about that, is that we go back to the vendor? What is the process to find out, is that normal or is that not normal? They feel expensive to me to sell them with a line across them. So that's my
Love it. It's a practical question. I'm going to lean on Tammy here in just a second, but here's what I would say. In your first couple encounters, take a picture and send it to your coach and just talk it through. You know, sometimes a press line is because of the heat element and it'll shake out. But if it's an ink line, that's something different. So yes, follow up with your vendor, but I think it's great to take a picture and chat with your coach about, like, how bad is this?
okay.
Tammy, what else would you add?
Yeah. I mean, definitely ask your coach or ask somebody else within retail. Kathleen, Beth are always great resources, but also reach out to that vendor. Those joggers came from Halo, and that's John, and he's great about that. You know, copy Sherry on that, because sometimes John is out of the office. So, you know, just getting response, and they'll get back real quick to you. But if it's something that can be fixed, it'll be fixed.
Yep. I love to take a picture of damage to inform them so that we can have an informed conversation. And I also like to go in those conversations already knowing what I think would solve the problem. So I like to already think before I'm on a call, like, is this something that's sellable, but it's not ideal? And so I'll go ahead and keep it, but I want them to reduce the invoice by 20 or 40%. Or if it's so unsellable that I just am calling to say, hey, I need a call tag sent to me, you need to take these back. They're completely unsellable. Again, we view it through the lens of the Ministry of Retail, that we want to represent Christ in how we respond when problems arise. Problems will rise. It's not if, it is when. But there's a lot of subjectivity here, and there's a lot of room for us to give grace, but also to be shrewd in how we handle corrections. So it's a little bit of a gray space, but start with just check in with Tammy and say, what do you think? I mean, what have you seen this before? And Debbie, because those are on the joggers, there's a good chance that they're happening at every location. So then I'd really want to know that.
Thank you. One other question, totally unrelated. I'm pretty sure we talked about this, but as I'm also coding invoices from all of these orders, all of the inventory goes into the 1630 inventory account, but then it gets allocated. And does that go to the store, or is that the 6950, or it would be 69 for me, but is that the XX50 account that we had talked about before? Okay.
Yeah, that's for the store product, goes into the XX50. you're going to pull the shipping out of that and put that into postage.
Got it. Thank you.
On some of these coming from Lake Shirts, that some of them will put a tagging charge on there as well. People have always handled that a little bit different, but I think we've tried to get everybody standardized on it. I just factor it in to the cost of the item. So it's 10 cents added onto that shirt. So if it was $5.90, that shirt is now $6.
Is Lake Shirts the only one you know that does that currently, or the
Lake Shirts charges, there'll be some other random non-national vendors that'll do that, I think.
I think Breast. Does Breast do the 10 cents?
It wasn't on my last invoice for them. And the other thing with Brist, which I found out, you can now pay with your P card and not pay the 3%. Or maybe because my invoice was small enough. I don't know. But I was able to pay them through QuickBooks. So
I'm just looking at one of my invoices, and I'm noticing like Brist has like a different like fees, like a design fee and a screen setup fee. Mine both say 0 because it was a shirt we reordered. Is that like, will they ever charge that? And if they do, like they shouldn't, I should call them. Okay.
Tammy, I would say no to that. Like, we've done the work nationally, but Tammy, what says?
if it's one that you saw during buyer's time, you should not be getting that charge. So that's why there's a 0. There are vendors that when you do a brand new art, there is a setup fee, and it depends. Sometimes it's $50 to do a setup fee on something. So there are times that those charges will come through, but anything done nationally, it should not be, because we've already taken care of all of that.
Okay, cool.
I love that you were looking at the invoice with that kind of analytical eye, MC, because you cannot be a retail manager and not find an invoice at some point in a year that's wrong. Whether they didn't honor the 144 group pricing, whether they charged you this year's pricing, or they didn't give you the Young Life discount pricing, you name it. So looking at your invoices analytically is a great move.
And when you find those, and you will find them, just reach back out to your rep with that company and ask, hey, this was on here. Can you it's not supposed to be for Oregon, there's no tax. So if we get taxed, I have to get a hold of them and they have to pull that off. And even if you've already paid that invoice, they can either refund back to your card, so that you tell them what you want. Either refund it back to your P card, you will have to concur that. So then you just put it back into that same account as a credit that you charged it to. Or they can do it as a credit, knowing that you're going to order again. So then that'll show up on your next invoice that there was a credit that they applied. But I would recommend getting it back on your P card so you don't have to think about it and know that you've got this credit sitting out there.
Yeah, that's great. I do have another question, different, not related to that. So I'll try and explain this. There's a group that came in, the GLC came a couple weeks ago, and they wanted to do gift cards, like $100 for each person that came, which was awesome. And I was like, great, we'll do gift cards, that works. Which let me just preface, I'll never do what I'm about to say again, because it was the worst thing I could have like decided to do. And I'll always do gift cards because people will always spend free money. So the lady that was putting it on, the admin, was like, hey, actually, like, I don't want to give people gift cards and they don't spend the money, because we want our money to go back to the mission. And so she wanted to put out these like, hey, you have $100 in the store. And we internally transferred it. But everyone spent all the money they got. Like, they didn't spend $50 of it and save the other. So I first started to internally transfer the like $100 and like split the payment, but realized tax is like still in the internal transfer and not a personal, like, and I'm realizing we have, for every like new employee or intern, they get these nice little cards that say like, hey, you have $10 in the store, code it to 6109. But what if there's buying something for $20? That would be like the same issue. Like what's the best practice in trying to like, because I think we're about to get a lot of these in the summer for people who like are new staff or it's their birthday or things like that. Does that make sense?
It does. And I can dive in, and Tammy help me with whatever I've forgotten. So let's peel that apart. Whenever you have a transaction like that gift card for 10 but they spend 20, you can take multiple tenders. So the first thing you're going to do is you're going to take the gift certificate tend and enter that in the way you normally do with however the payment was set up. If it's an internal transfer and you've been given an account number, great. And then the rest, the balance due, is that, you know, they need to decide whether they're putting it on a P card or if it's for work or if it's personal, that they're going to cover the difference with their personal credit card. So you can enact two tender forms of payment. If it is a gift and it is work related, you can remove the tax. So just note that anytime you do an internal transfer, it's tax exempt. Now let's talk about those gift cards. So if you'll attend the May 17th department call, we're going to roll out a brand new process with gift cards that would have made your life so much easier. So right there, I'm sorry, this is coming late in the game. There is a new process coming that would have made this so easy. And I'll just preview for you. It's creating an open ticket. So what would have happened is the person coming in, they would have swiped their P card. You would have put their name. Let's say it's Julianne, and she's paying for everyone's gifts that week. And you're keeping an open ticket. It's actually just keeping a running total in the background. And at the end of that 3 days, then you would have rung her out, given her this super long receipt that would have then hit her P card. Now, because of the dynamic that you're dealing with there, you might have had like a clipboard because you've got this individual group, and you might have written down a person's name and their total just to make sure they stayed under that 100. You might have had to have done something kind of offline to manage that, but we're going to do this open ticket. As long as there's a P card on file, that camp director, that landscape supervisor can create an open ticket for their summer staff. There's a lot of ways that we're going to be able to use that if there's a card on file. Again, tax exempt when you ring them up, but that's going to be the solution moving forward.
Yeah. And I think I get that we can like split those payments. I think the issue I ran into was, I think the like black and white in my head, like these divisional people are coming in to buy stuff that for themselves. And so when they hit $100, like trying to split, I thought at first I could split the $100, but when I take the tax off and they're paying with their personal card, they're not being charged tax, which like doesn't feel like that's how it should be. So would that be the process, or would it be to like not take the tax off at all and then split the payment?
Yeah, I would say you could fall on either side of that and be right and wrong. It's because you're taking something and splitting it in half.
Yeah.
You might consider, and I'm brainstorming right now. You might consider not offering them $10, but maybe offering a percentage off, like a one-time coupon that offers a percentage. So really, when they're coming, they're deciding what form of payment they're using, P card or personal card, and then you're just taking some amount off. Then there's not an internal transfer that's going to reimburse that transaction. You're not doing the general ledger transfers. You're just giving in the moment perk, and really incentivizing them to stop by the store. So glad you're on staff. We'd love to celebrate by this one time. You normally get 20%, so you're informing them, but now you get a bonus. Anything you buy this one time is 30% off.
Yeah, that's helpful. I don't want to get us in a bind like auditing with like, hey, you didn't charge people tax or things like that.
Right.
So
right, it's really, you're standing on two sides, so it kind of depends on each one. Each situation is going to be different. It's going to be hard to beat. And you're often not going to be there as the cashier to make that determination. So set yourself up in a no touch situation. You also might offer a gift card at the snack bar, like make the plastic gift card that you put in the mail and mail them. And it's got $10 on it that they could use in the coffee shop or snack bar. That might be easier. Thoughts about that, Tammy?
I think you touched on pretty much all of it, and everybody is going to come into some kind of situation like that, and you've just gotta figure it out and make the call on things. And it happens. I mean, nobody's going to say that was the worst thing you could ever do, will never come out of any of our mouths, but
Right.
it might just be, okay, think about it doing this way next time, which now, as you said, you would do something different. So honestly, it's a live and learn things. There's been times when they've done that and I've pulled the tag off of the items that they're buying and then just let them go out the door because it was so many different things that they were doing. And that was just how my brain worked to keep track of it. And then I just went in when they all left and did one big transaction. Or if I couldn't pull the tag, I wrote it down. So we had lists of things. And yeah, we would take names too. But one, I think that's great that you guys give birthday and new staff certificates. That's a great way to celebrate them.
Yeah. Just make sure you're not selling the gift cards at a discount. They're getting their discount at the point of tender or transaction. So sometimes staff will come in like that GLC is like, I want to buy everyone gift cards. Don't I get a discount on that? And you say, no, you don't. We'll sell them to you, but then they get the advantage by using their staff discount at the point of use. So you don't want to lose money on both ends.
That's awesome. I have one other question about like quantities shipped. So like just recently got some new shirts in. The quantities weren't right. I emailed Be Unlimited and was like, hey, this is wrong. And she was like, hey, we had a printing problem. We're sending you the like 5 mediums you're missing and the 2 extra, like 1 extra large and 1 large that we got that were not accounted for. She was like, they're yours. They're free. Like you can just keep them. Is that something like in that situation, I put them into inventory at 0 cost, but was thinking like if that happened and I like wanted to give those free ones to like my summer intern who's coming as like a gift, is that like up to my discretion, like to be able to do that? Or okay, cool.
It really is. And again, just like eating chocolate, it's all in moderation. You know, like if you find that you're rounding corners and giving product away and that's just becoming your regular go-to, then I would say have a check inside, because that inventory could then be sold for 100% profit margin. There was a real opportunity there. I would say in my role, I often said thank you with milkshakes, not with store inventory, because our store space is more complicated. Our profit margins are higher. There's a lot of assets to manage and steward. It's just easier to say thank you with a candy bar, a trip to the snack bar with or a coffee shop with a macchiato. Like that does about the same thing. But you know, this is your leadership style emerging, and that's where you get to define how you're leading this department and how your vision and how you're caring for your team. You know, if you've had an intern that you felt like you went to war with and you've had a blistering summer, and at the end of the summer you just look at her and say, pick anything out in the store, it's on me. Great. That's your leadership expression, and you have the freedom to do that. So you got to account for it, whether you're putting on your personal card or putting on your P card. But yeah, there's some freedom there.
I have a question about purchase orders, and I was talking to Amy about this a little bit ago about I did a purchase order, received it, and when I received it, it was from Be Unlimited, and they just sent like 1 extra of a large, which I'm like, that's great. I have 1 extra of a large that I ordered, but I originally ordered, but I tried to make note of that in when I received it. like in the quantities, and it said you can't have more than what was supposed to be, like it wouldn't let me change the quantity when I went in to receive that order. So I don't know,
Tammy, what
did I do that right or did I miss something?
did you already receive it? Tammy, what do you think?
I think she already received it or saved it a certain way and it wasn't letting you make those changes. If you save it as a draft, then you can go in and make those changes. But when Be Unlimited does that, and they will do that on almost every order, you will get a free shirt and sometimes up to 3. It just depends on what they order in. What I do is on that purchase order, I take what the charge is. So say it's $25 and I ordered 10 shirts, but they sent me 11. I'm going to divide it by that 11 and get the new cost. And that's what I put into the purchase order. So then your invoice is going to be correct. If it's off by a penny because of just how it rounds some things, don't worry about that. You're going to keep nickeling, actually 10ths trying to fix those things, and you're going to make yourself go batty. So don't do that. But yeah, so in that instance, what you could do is go in, once you receive that purchase order, go in and add that item, but it will throw off your numbers a little bit because you didn't account for having 11 versus 10 in the cost of those shirts.
But just
That
know,
makes sense?
I think you might have saved it in a received way because you should be able, if it's in a draft, it's still editable. And we ask you guys to go ahead and create POs, but as you create them, you're not receiving them until you're receiving them. So that might be what you're running into. And then if you just have this random shirt that arrived in the mail, like, you could do it a couple of different ways. I mean, you could create a one PO for one shirt and put the cost at 0. I mean, you just need to get it into your inventory and account for it. So sometimes there are many ways to do the same thing.
And
Yeah, I accepted it or received it, but before I did that, it said pending. So
Yeah,
I created it, it was pending, then I went in again and received it. But so before I received it, that's when I was trying to make the change. Because I feel like we talked about it in the call and we were able to change it. So I was like, why am I able to do it right now? It's like it must have been something that I did or clicked when I was creating the purchase order, maybe initially. I don't know.
That doesn't ring with what I know. So I'm kind of in a little bit of question series. So I would say maybe if that happens again, let's get Jilly when she's visiting or myself when I'm up at camp, and let's just make sure you're creating purchase orders in a way that's still allowing them to be editable until you're calling them final. That feels, I can't put that in any block that I'm familiar with. So I'm stumped.
I might be misunderstanding, but I think I did the same thing yesterday, Angela, and I like right now it says partially received. So I was able to I had received a few things and was waiting to figure out about those extra shirts. And then I was like, I think I remember we just put them in at 0. So then I went back and hit edit order at the very top. And it brought up a different bar from the received stuff where I was able to type in the same shirt. So it was like rainbow type gray, size large that I'd already received. And I just put 1 at 0 and was able to just hit receive again. I don't know if that's what you're trying to do or if I'm misunderstanding.
Maybe I'll try that and see if that is something I can do. Yeah, I'm just kind of scratching my head. Okay, let's think through this.
It might be too, Angela, that you can call Tammy and share your screen on a Zoom, and then she's seeing what you're seeing. So, yeah.
Great, thank you.
Can I get some clarification on that? Because when Angela talked to me, I didn't have an answer because I think in pending, I could change, went to edit order like you were saying, MC. And instead of 10, I would change it to 11. But Tammy, you're saying then you go in like for medium, you change the cost for that medium only.
For the whole, so, you've got the line items on there, so it'll show what you ordered, how many, and then the cost, and it's all on one line. So if you got one extra, you're putting the cost in if it's not already associated, but because these things happen, you want to make sure the cost that is listed on your invoice is the correct one in there. Just don't assume that what's in the system matches that invoice. So you want to be checking that. But if it's going to change it in any way, so you got 11 divide, 25 divided by 11, I would change the cost then to factor that shirt into it. So the smalls and the larges are going to be at a different price than the mediums.
So to rectify it now, after I've already received a couple of Be Unlimited, most of Be Unlimited has been that way. How do I fix it?
Well, are you talking about a shipment that's going to come to you? Like, are you going to get 5 shirts randomly?
No, I've received almost all of my Be Unlimited, and every one of those orders have a different number than I've ordered. And I've just put in the amount that I've received, but I didn't change the cost of the invoice to reflect what my actual